Hello and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. So today's topic is training, and we're going to cover how to train for men's physique. So I had a listener request for this topic. So someone wanted help with kind of programming towards men's physique competitions, and more so just understanding like the overall look, like maybe what exercises they should focus on, and some odds and ends like that. So what we're going to cover here is kind of like a breakdown of what the most kind of important focal points are to work towards a men's physique build. And then I can, kind of keep this podcast and send it whenever this question comes back up later in the future. So what men's physique is basically looking good in swimming trunks. So it is a category of aesthetic competition. So people get on stage and they want to look better than someone else, I guess would be. You kind of want to look your best, and if that happens to look better than other people, that's cool. But you should actually just go for your best. But they get judged in shorts. So they would wear swimming trunks, which are typically called board shorts in competitions. So what this lends itself to is your legs are not really being judged. So the idea of this category was, at the time they made it, there was men's bodybuilding, and it would take a while for people to feel like they were fully developed enough to be able to compete. So they might have a big upper body, but they kind of like the legs, which is typically along a harder part for most people to grow, mostly because they don't train them well. But they wanted to create a way for people to compete sooner, get experience on stage, get more money for the organizations. And then as they continue to grow, they could grow into a bodybuilding physique, which would be more fully developed, having like all your body parts. So equaled out and kind of balanced. So men's physique is, they were like, okay, we can wear board shorts, kind of look like a model, so this might bring in a different type of look, different type of clientele. It might be better for marketing and advertising than men's bodybuilding, because at the time men's physique was created, it was kind of like cultural to say like bodybuilders are kind of like too big or too gross, and they were being like kind of have like a stigma on them. So people wanted to look good and they wanted to have muscle, but they didn't want to be that big. So the promoters of these organizations and stuff said, okay, well, let's give these people a category where they don't have to be that big. So you go on stage, you're wearing swimming trunks, and you have what's called like casual poses. So they don't do like a double bicep pose. They don't try to show off like this, like a side chest flex. So there are specific poses to bodybuilders, which we all would think of, but men's physique is more modeling. So your arms are kind of like down by your sides, and you're standing at a slight angle to kind of create like a twist and a torque in your core, so you can flex your abs. It also makes your waist look smaller compared to the width of your shoulders. So you might turn your belly button slightly to the side to narrow down your waist, but you'd keep your shoulders facing the judges. So there's a whole posing aspect to this category, which we're not going to talk about. We're just going to talk about training. But I actually help all of my clients do their posing, and even like the female ones. So I actually know how to do the bikini poses, figure poses, the physique poses, and the women's bodybuilding poses, which is a little bit different than the men's. Like they have more open hand positions and a little bit of a more feminine type positions. So I actually have trained and practiced all the posing in high heels. So it looks ridiculous probably when I'm teaching clients in the gym on how to do bikini poses and stuff, but it's fun. So I enjoy being part of the entire process. So like everybody I help for a contest, I typically will help them with the nutrition training plus the posing, picking out the music, organizing everything. I've even done the makeup for some of my female clients before, so a little bit crazy, but I like being involved in the aspects as much as I can, so that way we can kind of control our outcome. And what kind of happened before was, when I was coming up younger as a trainer, like you would get somebody ready for a competition, you'd do their training and nutrition, you'd send them to like a posing coach, and the posing coach would charge them $1 million, show them generic bullshit that wasn't specific for their body type, And you could just see it wasn't like they were investing the same time and effort that I had felt like I invested. And even the client felt that way. So I was like, hell, who's going to help them more than me? I might as well learn the stuff and do it myself. So that's what we did. Okay. So for men's physique, the reason why I figured I'd start with this one is because the one I get requested most often. And also, this is what most guys want to look like when they think about like the summertime rolling around. So if somebody says like, "Oh, I want to train to look good in the summer," well, we're going to talk about how to shape your body and what they would do towards a men's physique build, and this would be pretty much what other guys would want to do, like if they're just getting ready for summer body kind of thing too. Okay, so like we said, the overall look is since you're wearing shorts. Leg size doesn't matter as much. You still absolutely need to freaking train your legs, okay? So training your legs is extremely important, not only just to make sure you have a balanced physique and you don't look like an idiot when you're naked, it also helps you burn body fat and burn more calories throughout the entire process, so you can eat more food and build more muscle and stay leaner, so it helps the overall process. So I do laugh, as I had a friend in high school, and his theory towards leg training, like why he never showed up on leg day, was because he didn't want his two legs to look bigger because it might make his third leg look bigger, like smaller. So you can kind of like put that imagery together there of what I'm talking about. So, and he's an absolute idiot, but it was hilarious. So he didn't want his legs to get bigger because it'd make the other thing look smaller. And so, gosh, that was hilarious. But he was just lazy and didn't want to train legs. So let's not do that. Okay, let's not use his theory. Let's actually train our legs. So even though they're going to be in shorts, even though like you might always wear jeans or whatever, you still need to train your legs. It has a ton of benefit. So for leg training, you want to train them at least once a week. Do I have some of my men's physique competitors train them more often? Yes, I do, depending on how many days a week they can train. So if they're available to train 5, 6, 7 days a week, and I do have actually people who do train 7 days a week, and we'll structure it where their legs are typically touched one large workout and then a secondary kind of smaller based workout. But that way, like we said, is it still helps with overall fat loss. So in podcast 181, titled Using Muscle Damage for Fat Loss, it talks about how when muscle is beat up and kind of damaged from training, it requires excess calories to repair itself. So if we're in the dieting process, instead of me eating less calories, I can just have more muscle damage present. And the requirement of muscle damage, like our body needing to address that and fix that, burns extra calories for us. So if I keep my legs damaged, where they're always having some degree of recovery requirement, it's going to allow me to chew up more calories, and therefore I can eat more rather than having to eat less. So training your legs is actually very helpful for overall fat loss, not only for like just aesthetics and looking balanced, okay? So typically we train them once a week. We typically do pre-exhaust method for the legs, meaning we kind of do small exercises before big ones. This allows them to not have to train as heavy on the larger movements, so that way we don't get as much joint damage, overall nervous system stress. So in podcast 254, it's a training podcast, it's titled Pre-Exhaust for Big Gains Without Big Pains. So in that podcast, it would talk about the ideas or benefits of pre-exhaust training. So what essentially we do is we do like isolation exercises for the quads, the hamstrings, and the glutes. So they might do leg extensions for quads, hamstring curls for hamstrings, and then maybe RDLs, stiff leg deadlifts, maybe barbell hip thrusts for glutes. And then they would go to their larger movement like barbell squats or like some kind of large squat motion for the day. And by doing the smaller isolations first, it does make them weaker on that big strength-based movement, but it reduces how much weight they have to use to actually feel fatigue from that exercise, which saves stress on the joints, saves stress on the nervous system, that we can, in the overall kind of recovery abilities of the body, so we can devote more of those recovery abilities of the body to the upper body, which is a higher focus. So we use pre-exhaust. We isolate hamstrings, quads, and glutes. Not enough people actually focus on glutes. So you can't just worry about your thighs. You have to actually work your glutes, okay? That makes an enormous effect on stage. If a guy goes on stage and they have a big butt, it makes their waist look smaller. So if you want to appear to have a smaller waist, you have to build big glutes. Okay? So they're absolutely, absolutely important. You need to isolate them. You need to give them attention as much as you would to your quads and hamstrings. Then that's basically kind of our whole focus is we do the isolation. We do something for quads, hamstrings, glutes. Typically, the order of that is whatever's the weakest developed in the person. So if they have no ass, we will do glute stuff first. They typically are not going to have hamstrings then, so we'll do hamstring exercise, and then we do a quad exercise, and then they'll go to like some kind of large movement for strength, and then they'll do a large movement for just overall muscle damage and beat up the tissue. So it's typically going to be at most 5 exercises. Sometimes we'll do stuff that kind of blends glutes and hamstrings together, so you can get away with 4 exercises, but that's typically what we do. So in podcast 214, titled Understanding Rep Ranges and Expected Results, it talks about time under tension. So if I want to get muscular growth, how long should my sets last? If I want to get increased strength, how long should my sets last? So for the isolations, we're going to be going totally in the muscle building, not worrying about strength. So that's typically going to be 30 to 60 seconds. I usually make it 30 to 40 seconds if I was being like super nitpicky. So 30 to 40 second sets for the isolation work. For the strength work, which it is important to eventually get stronger so you can increase your overall volume over time. We will typically do anywhere around 10 to 20 seconds for the sets of time under tension. Then for the large movement for overall muscle damage to kind of finish off the workout, we do anywhere from 30 to 60 seconds. So, and how many sets you do depends on the person's ability. Typically, we're going to do anywhere from 2 to 4 sets per exercise. So if you do 2 to 4 sets of glutes, 2 to 4 sets of hamstrings, 2 to 4 sets of quads, do 2 to 4 sets of your strength movement, 2 to 4 sets of your muscle damage movement to end the workout. That's boom, big, full, extra, amazing, good leg workout. Okay? So that's typically what we do 1 time a week. If they come back and they do a second leg workout, we typically drop off the strength movement. So do isolation for glute, hamstring, quad, and then a large compound movement for muscle damage, but we drop the strength off. We typically only work on the strength once a week. Cool. Now, legs are important, so that's why I wanted to actually cover them and get them first, so that way you don't just blow past them. So the rest of the stuff we're going to talk about is upper body shaping, but it's really, really, really important not to forget about your legs, okay? And like we said, legs are important, and think of the glutes. If that allows our waist to look smaller, that's going to then allow our shoulders to look wider too. So you need to have good development in your lower body to have your overall aesthetics look very good. Okay? And then just like how guys like butts on women, guess what? Women like butts too. So if you have any concern over attractiveness, women would appreciate you having a butt. So it'll be a good thing for you, okay? So now moving on to upper body. The big points that you have to have in place for men's physique is a big chest, wide shoulders, and abs. Okay? So you have to have a big, full, developed chest to the best of your genetic abilities. You then want to work on wide shoulders, and we're going to talk about why that's specifically, I'm saying wide. So not just shoulders in general, but width of shoulders. And then you have to have freaking abs if you're going to do men's physique. You have to have bumpy abs, not just flat abs. So there are guys who have flat abs who do well in men's physique, yada, yada, yada. But in general, it's better to have bumps and have good detail to your abs. It's also going to allow you to look leaner than what you really are. So if you have bumps in full development of your ab muscles, your abs will kind of stick out, okay, more. So you can have a little bit more fat on your abs and still be able to see them than if you had flat stomach, like flat abs, okay? Now, the other focus points are going to be upper back, but you don't want to focus so much on width of the upper back. You want to focus on detail, okay? And if you go for any width, you just want up under the armpit, the very high edge of the lat. You don't want to get lower lat, like sweeping lats, because it's going to create more of a full, like rounded back, like gorilla type look, which they don't want in men's physique, okay? And then arms are important, but they can't outsize your chest. So if you have naturally bigger arms than than chest, you might have to skip training your arms altogether. So that way you can get your chest to outmatch your arms. Your chest needs to look bigger than your arms for the men's physique overall look, to be fully developed and look its best. Okay? So let's first look at chest training. The biggest thing to work on for chest is width, and then upper chest. So if you can have a wide chest and you can have your upper chest developed, you will beat your rest of your competition because they're mostly going to be lower chest dominant. So what builds width is flies, a shit ton of chest flies, okay? In your training, you're going to end up doing more flies than you are presses as a men's physique competitor, and wide grip kind of presses. So if you're doing chest presses on like a Smith machine or on a regular like kind of chest press machine, you want to grab nice and wide, so that way you can develop mostly the chest rather than the triceps. Okay, and then how do you work your upper chest? Is just incline everything. So there's no need for you to do decline stuff except for once in a blue moon. There's no need for you to do flat bench stuff except for once in a blue moon. Everything you should do as a men's physique competitor should be at a small incline. So either 15, 30, or 45 degrees. Then you're going to play around within that world for most of your exercises. Okay? And again, when you're trying to grow your chest, make sure you're staying in the right time under tension frames. So don't just do heavy shit for like 10 seconds thinking that's going to build your chest. That's not. It's too short of time under tension. You're going to develop strength, and then you're going to kind of plateau on strength, plateau on growth, not really move anywhere, even though you say, like you'll go, I lift heavy all the time and nothing's really growing. You're probably lifting too heavy. So you need to make sure your time under tension is somewhere between 20 to 40 seconds. That's kind of the sweet spot for muscle growth. Okay? So in 30 to 40 is more so a little bit joint friendlier, but that's where you want to be, is mostly 20 to 40 seconds. So a sample workout for men's physique for chest, if we look at, there's a difference between pre-exhausting your chest versus priming your chest. So I'm going to make a podcast in the next kind of training podcast, so 3 or 4 days from now. I'm going to make a podcast explaining the difference between priming and pre-exhausting. But you want to do something that makes you feel connected mentally with your chest muscles before you do your heaviest exercise for the day. So typically what we do with that is some type of flies. So you'll do machine flies or cable flies, like cable crossovers or something like that. And sometimes we'll even do what we call high machine flies. So if you have, like, if you go to a gym and you have like a typical machine for chest flies, which is typically going to be like Life Fitness, so the Hammer Strength Life Fitness brand. Life Fitness is a selectorized version of the equipment. So what you would do is, instead of having the hand height where when you close the handles, your hands are in line with the bottom edge of your chest, you want to drop the seat height down. So when you close the handles are almost at your upper chest or neck. And that's going to create almost the sensation of an inclined chest fly. So that's a cool little variation. But you're going to typically do some chest flies before you do presses. So, and again, we stay within a 20 to 40 second time range. You do anywhere from 2 to 4 sets. This is pretty general, but that's pretty good recommendation. You would then go on to some kind of inclined press work. And I typically use dumbbells more than barbell, because dumbbell, you can get a better range of motion. You can get a more true to your body type bar path, or like movement pathway. So it avoids it avoids stress in the rotator cuff and some other areas. So because you can angle the dumbbells a little bit to match your natural pathways. So we typically do that with making sure we get a full stretch to bottom. So don't shortchange those, where, like, if you had a bar in your hands, you should press dumbbells low enough that the bar would actually touch your chest. So if the dumbbells were connected, you would hit your chest with the connection in between the dumbbells. So if you're doing dumbbell chest presses and you're 6 inches above your chest the whole damn time, it's not going to get full chest development, okay? So after the heavy work, so that's typically sets of like 20 seconds. That's our heavyish work. We'll do then like usually a superset of another type of fly and another type of press. This could be machines, or it can even be like a dumbbell incline fly into push-ups. We just do some type, usually a superset of a fly and a press. and then we end with some kind of burnout of like either like drop sets on flies on some machine or cable, or even dumbbells if you're fresh enough, or a push-up sequence. So maybe we'll do push-ups at different angles, go from a hard angle to a medium angle to an easy angle, and just burn out each position. But again, the push-ups will be in a wide hand position to make sure we get that width of the chest. So that's what you want to focus on with chest, is width and inclining, so you can get your upper chest. And make sure that your rep ranges and time under tensions match muscle growth. That make sure you're not just moving heavy shit around. Make sure you're moving it around for long enough that you're getting good development and good growth out of it. Okay. For shoulders, if we're looking for wide shoulders, it's going to be a shit ton of side raises, lateral raises. So you want to focus on your middle shoulder muscle. So if you were to Google the deltoids, deltoids, that is the kind of technical term for shoulders, deltoids. You'll see there's a front deltoid, a middle deltoid, and a rear deltoid. So you want to focus on your middle deltoid. People don't ever say deltoid this much. They usually just say delt, so middle delt, or they'll just say the middle of the shoulder or side shoulder, stuff like that. So, but you want to do a lot of raises compared to presses. So anytime you do an overhead press for your shoulders, you're more so going to prioritize front delt and tricep over your middle delt and rear delt. So people who do a lot of overhead presses for shoulders tend to be too dominant in their front shoulder, and then they're going to have more tricep development than they will shoulder development almost. So you want to have 2 or 3 raises to every one of your presses in your programming. So, and then you want to prioritize middle delt and rear delt over front delt. So sometimes I work with people, we don't even do any front shoulder exercises because their front shoulder is involved in all their chest work. So we'll actually do no isolations for the front shoulder. So a typical workout might be kind of priming or pre-exhausting with either rear delts or regular lateral raises. And we'll even do like a run the rack technique or something where they have a shit ton of reps involved. So get a ton of blood flow, get really good mind-muscle connection into the muscles. Then we typically, for the strength, for the overhead work, I like to superset some type of raise along with the overhead press. It will limit the strength of the overhead press, but it makes sure that the shoulders die first, not your triceps. So we'll typically superset raises and overhead presses together. Then after that, we go on to kind of one-arm variations of lateral raises, so we can make sure everything's balanced out and it gives you a different feel. So we either do like one arm leaning out or one arm leaning in lateral raises. Just a shit ton of other options, but that's a good example. And then we'll finish with kind of like a burnout for rear delts, maybe like multiple like rest pause things where they might do like 10 sets of 10 reps with 10 seconds in between. So something like that, where you just do a shit ton of reps and really pump out the blood. So that's going to be a good shoulder workout. And then for abs, you want to focus on contracting abdominal exercises rather than bracing or stabilizing abdominal exercises. So contracting exercises will build the bumps in your abs faster than stabilizing or bracing exercises would. And you want to focus on heavy weighted stuff. Make sure your time under tension matches what you want to happen. So if you want to grow the bumps in your abs, you have to be in the growing time under tension range. So too often people do abs at too high of time under tension, not enough resistance, not enough weight, to where the muscle burns, but it doesn't really actually damage the tissue. So you want to make sure you get heavy stuff in that's under 30 seconds of failure, mixed in with high rep stuff, which is like 30 to 60 seconds. There's no need to do abs for longer than 60 seconds per set. Zero. No need, none whatsoever. Okay? So all of your ab work should be between 20 seconds to 60 seconds for time under tension. And again, focus on contracting rather than stabilizing or bracing. And you want to change your frequency of training your abs often. So sometimes we'll do 4 weeks of training the abs 4 times per week. Then we'll do 4 weeks of training the abs twice per week. Now, when you do it twice per week, we do double the volume to make sure they still get a good increase in volume from 4-week program to 4-week program. But changing the stimulus of going from 4 times a week to twice a week kind of changes up the muscle a little bit, and your muscles will feel more sore than if you train them the exact same number of times per week forever and ever and ever. Okay? So sometimes people will poo-poo on the concept of muscle confusion in regards to needing to change things so your muscles don't become accustomed to the training style. They'll say that that's bullshit. I say that they're full of shit. because law of adaptation. If we do something all the time the exact same way, our body gets accustomed to it. And it responds less and less and less to that stimulus. So if I go out and I run a mile every day, that mile gets easier and easier and easier. Whereas if you break the mile into a series of sprints, and you change your sprint times from like 30 seconds to 1 minute to 40 seconds to 90 seconds, going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, that mile still sucks for a very long time. So you do have to change your training styles, okay, and structures often to make sure the muscles are continually stimulated and growing and adapting, okay? So muscle confusion is a real thing. Now, don't go crazy with it and, take it to an extreme. What we mean is that if you do something for too long of a time, your body will get used to it. So you have to change the stimulus. And that involves more than just changing the exercise, okay? You have to change frequency as well. And even changing time under tension helps as well. Cool. So that's ab training. That's shoulder training and chest training we went through. So the last thing I want to kind of leave you with here is kind of give you an idea of how to split up your workouts throughout the week. So for upper back and arms, you just kind of fit them in when needed. Since they're not the biggest priorities, you just kind of fill in gaps. So if you can train 6 days per week, I'm going to give you guys sample structures, by the way, right now. So you can kind of write this down if you'd like. There are more than this, like options available. I just wanted to give options. So if you can train 6 days per week, you can do one workout. Okay, workout 1 is chest and triceps. Workout 2 is shoulders and back. Workout 3 is biceps and legs. So you'll actually do biceps, okay, 2 to 4 sets of 1 to 2 exercises, getting that time under tension range for the muscle growth, and then go into legs. Now, abs, we would train maybe at the beginning of anywhere from 2 to 4 of those workouts, okay, depending on how you want to structure that. So maybe you'll think about, okay, my chest and triceps workout is a little bit shorter than the other one, so I might add abs on that day, okay? And I always recommend training your abs to start the workout. Don't wait till the end because you'll half-ass them or you'll skip them. So do abs first, and put them on your shortest days, okay? So, day 1 is chest and triceps, day 2 is shoulders and back, day 3 is bicep and legs, and then you just repeat that and take the 7th day off. So that's a good sample. There's a million others, but that's one to take it with you and run with. 5 days per week, you can do workout 1 is chest and back, workout 2 is shoulders, triceps, and biceps, workout 3 is legs, workout 4 is chest and back, workout 5 is shoulders, triceps, and biceps. So you do legs once a week, the upper body muscles twice a week. Okay? 4 days per week, workout 1 is chest and arms, workout 2 is shoulders and back, workout 3 is legs, workout 4 is chest and shoulders. So again, the highest priority muscles, okay, the chest and shoulders are going to get the highest priority, like most frequency. Okay? So that's going to work well. Okay, so that's the training structure. That was what the person asked for on what is the focal points of training for men's physique and some samples of like exercise and workout combinations. So hopefully this gave you what you wanted, the person who asked. If you have any more specific questions, shoot us an email at brutaliron@gmail.com like you did to ask for this question, but ask more specifics if you'd like them. So anybody listening to this who didn't request it but thought it might be interesting, you can also reach out if you want more information as well. Okay, so this gives you an idea of how you train for men's physique. The highest priorities is chest, shoulder width, and abs. You want to understand proper time under tension and rep ranges. Make sure you're actually in the muscle growth rep ranges. Okay, and the most important muscles should be trained at least twice per week. And you still got to train legs at least once a week. Okay. So hopefully this helped. Hopefully it gave you some food for thought, some things you can run with and make your own programming. Obviously, if you want extra help with programming, we do that as a service. So you can always reach out to us and we'll help you create a program that you can use for, like, say, 8 to 12 weeks, and then just kind of stick with that for the rest of your life and develop it from there. But we can get you at least a good starting place. Cool? Okay. So if you like this information, you can find more from us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Brutal Iron Gym. Also, if you like the podcast, please share it with family and friends. Please, please, please. The more people we help, the happier the world will be. And if you have any questions, feedback, or suggestions, we'd love to hear from you.